Well, we're here in Georgia thanks to Mercedes. We're in the new 2020 AMG GTC.
Formerly the GTS.
Well, the nomenclature has changed. It was GT and GTS, and then now it's GT and GTC. The price has changed.
Do we
the
know
amenities
why?
have changed.
Do we know why it changed? Just to confuse us further, I think?
Well, maybe. We're not sure why, but hey, we'll go with it because they have done actually some upgrades to the car.
Yeah.
They have still got the 4-liter twin-turbo V8, 550 horsepower, gobs of torque in a 3,800-pound car.
We should clarify that the base one, the GT, used to be the GT, still the GT. The base one is 470 horsepower, so it does have a crank up, but it's 550 and 500
two-lane
pound
road.
feet. There you go.
Listen to that. Now, let's talk about noises. This noise makes you weep. As a matter of fact, everything about the car makes you weep.
Wow, you're pontificating today. Okay,
well,
all right.
It's not often that we get in a car that is so visceral at every level.
Yeah.
Some cars are just good looking and they're, not fast, or other cars are fast and they're iffy on the looks.
Yeah, yeah.
This car has an extreme visceral reaction at every level, whether it's the styling, the interior, the width, the noise, how it handles, how it drives, how heavy it feels, how solid it is, and how built for speed and not built for American speed limits this car is.
This is very true, yes.
It's astounding. Yeah, quite rapid. 3,800 pounds, so the steering is very direct, but you feel the weight of this car, and it's almost a front mid-engine configuration on this car.
That's why you're sitting over the back axle. You almost, it's very bizarre how far back you sit in this car. You're all the way back at the back axle, and you can tell, and you have this massive hood in front of you that doesn't feel like it should be on a car this size, because it's honestly, it's not really any bigger than a 911, but it sure feels bigger than a 911.
It does. Yeah. Well, the width for sure, and that's the thing you'll notice when you first get in. You'll notice how far away we are from each other.
The transmission tunnel is like a Hummer.
The tunnel itself, yes, and the width. You're going to run over things you thought, oh, I've cleared that, and you're going to run it over. I promise you. And then we've got Pilot Sport Cup 2s. We've been on this road in Georgia, and we've been on it with, wet leaves and misty rain and fog. It's far different, and this car comes to life.
This is much better when you don't have that, for sure.
Now, as far as the feel of this car, it's reminding me of the GT flavor, the 928 flavor that I love. It's a GT car with that 928 kind of, I can turn, and it's got the rear wheel steering. That's why. Degree and a half is about what it'll do for the dynamic rear steering, and of course it has the suspension modes, all the dynamic adaptive suspension, which is great. And the interior has been upgraded dramatically, which I love. Steering wheel, the materials. This is a car you just want to smash everybody.
It looks similar to the earlier versions, but they've got their MBUX new system in here that is their new interactive system on the dual iPads. Now, it doesn't have the full double iPad configuration that you see in the rest of their cars. It does still have an instrument cluster here, but it does have the interface now that the rest of the cars have. It didn't used to when it was first introduced.
DCT. Now, you have to have it in individual mode for it to hold gears. Otherwise, as soon as you downshift, it'll actually, upshift when you start to feather the throttle. It won't hold it. So you got to be in individual mode, and it's got all these modes, but the steering wheel has been revised, so it's a brand new design. It includes the ability to switch modes right here on your steering wheel, which is great.
It's almost like the little dial that Porsche has underneath their steering wheel now. That's awesome.
Wow.
To do their sport, etc. All of those are changed now under the steering wheel.
I've been in comfort mode this whole time.
Yeah,
Time to go to sport.
There you go.
All right, so that should change the engine note, the dynamics, and certainly the noise. Ooh. Yeah, I might be going maybe a little bit too fast up this road.
Going a smidge faster than they recommend.
Yeah,
seeing that sign just a little bit ahead of what they recommend. Yeah.
How many cars have you seen that make you ache every time you look at it? I ache.
Easy there, easy.
Looking
Family
at this
program.
car.
It's okay.
It's so beautiful from every angle.
It is great looking, I do have to say.
Whether you like Mercedes or not, you're going to love looking at this thing.
Every time we stop this car, we get questions about it. And the number one question is, which Mercedes is that?
Yeah.
That's the number one question. I mean, that tells you. Here's the thing. I'm glad you brought up the LC500, because I think a place that both of those are similar in styling, besides the fact they're GT cars, is both of those look like concept cars on the road right now. This, from every angle, has presence. It's lower and wider than you think it is when you see it moving. It just looks squished in a great way. It looks like a concept car that Mercedes is trying out, and yet you can go buy it right now. It's crazy, and it looks so menacing. We have that E63 wagon with us as well, which is a menacing car. This behind you is more threatening.
Behind you, in front of you, it's just sort of stay away. I'm going to beat you in every area. Oh, this car is just pretty. How often do you see a car that qualifies as pretty?
It's just beautiful.
Maybe the next generation might be, of any car, might be striking or appropriate or fits the brand and it's the new thing. It's just new and you haven't seen those shapes all together yet. But pretty, timeless, classic front-engine GT car layout.
This has a chance for that.
You have to buy one of these because at $175,000, which is what this is loaded at.
Ouch, let's acknowledge that real quick.
It's expensive.
That's a lot of money.
Absolutely. But as far as well-built, beautifully crafted, gorgeous to look at, I just want to be in it. And how many cars do we have this on the market, like this on the market?
Very few.
It's not many. And for that reason, I think you need to strongly consider this. Yeah, I want to attack far faster than I'm going. And it has race mode. Race mode.
Of course it does.
It'll be parked out front of the restaurant. Race mode.
In race mode, yes, for sure.
This just hangs on. I'm feeling the weight through these corners. And as soon as you turn in, the car moves and then you feel the weight. It's not like an instantly nimble feeling.
That's fair,
where you turn in and the car just follows immediately. Well, it's nimble and it's got the precision, but then you feel the weight. But that's a good thing. I like the balance of GT car, and it's what drew me to the 928, to be honest.
I know you're a big fan of that. I actually wonder because, we're saying it's 3,800 pounds. I actually was surprised by that number because I think it feels heavier than that. It feels more grounded and heavier than that. I do think it handles wonderfully well. I think it sticks well. But that 3,800 pound number seemed low when I first saw it. It was like, really? Because it seems closer to 4.
Feeling of comparison?
Yes. But it carries that weight it doesn't carry that weight badly. It just feels like it's heavier.
You and I drive cars and we think, I'd like to own this car. But then there's always going to be the next iteration. This is good. I like that car. We'll give it 4 stars and say, I like that car. I want it in my garage.
Yeah.
But for long term, a long-term collection where you think, I'm never getting rid of this car, this has struck me weirdly.
Really?
I'm tell you, I'm becoming more and more of a Mercedes fan. They are, as you said, they're killing it right now.
They're in a renaissance. They're in a real renaissance of Mercedes. The last few years, there's been this they just checking boxes on all of their models. I'm very impressed. Yes.
I think this one is creeping in a huge way because
it's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. It is.
It's a great car. However, having said that,
but worth it for what it is. How can I can't afford $175,000.
No.
I wish I could. And if I could, I'd definitely say worth it.
But you know what? We were at a car show this morning, and there were 2 brand new 992s there. They weren't GT anything, but they were 992s. One was a Cabriolet, one was a 4S.
Sure.
They were both $150,000.
They're a lot.
So
Porsches are a lot.
My point here is, obviously, this is a press car, which means they checked every box possible, and it's $175,000.
Yeah.
That means this car, which starts at like $120,000, $130,000, that means this car is possible for absolute 911 money because those 911s are $150,000 now. I feel like we don't think about the 911 as a $150,000 car, but it legitimately is now. The ones I saw this morning were not hyper spec'd, and they were $150,000. That means this car is looking the 911 right in the teeth. And I actually prefer the muscle car flavor of this more than the feel of the 911. It's a little more me,
I could see that, yeah. It is GT car. I keep coming back to the 928. The 928 was never this vicious.
No, not at all.
Ever.
No, definitely not.
But it has that same attraction from I just want to own that. I want to live with that car.
Funny. Like it.
Look at the buttons. I judge a car by its door slam. Just so solid. It's that solidity of the 80s back in Mercedes.
All right.
You slam the door and you think, ooh, that tells me a lot. It's like looking at somebody's watch and you think, that's a discerning brand. You're an interesting person. Tell me more. Same thing, just from a door slam. I get all of that from a door slam.
You're an interesting person. Anyway, yeah, okay, got it. You know, what I think is interesting is they've done a really good job of mirroring the controls that are here on the wheel. They've got these two little nodules here. One of them, as you mentioned before, is sport comfort. All your settings are here, like you would do the sport and comfort modes on a Porsche now.
Yeah, it
and
works.
The other side, they've mirrored it on the other side, and they've done two things, both of which I'm thrilled have got an easy, quick button. One is traction control, which in this car, turn that off very carefully. Be very careful, because this car likes to get the back loose, especially in the wet. But the other one is the start-stop. It's not like, where is it? It's
where
just,
is it
boom.
buried in
It's
the menu,
right here in the thumb, which is great. So I'm pleased to see that. But all of that is duplicated here. And you can do, you mentioned it before, you can do the individual setting, which is, you know what, I'd like the stiff suspension with the quieter exhaust, or whatever it is that you should combo. You can start fighting through the menus here, and you can get that done.
We're away. I think the screen on this car is wider than prior screens in this car, which,
it's half their new M-Box system, so it's a lot.
Accentuates the eighth of an acre of space between the two of us.
It is. It's almost, I stay with it. It is the center console off an H1 Hummer is somehow shoved inside a sports car.
Yeah, it is, for sure.
There's a lot of space in between, and this car, you can't get around the fact it just feels wide. I mean, here we are in Georgia. They have reflectors on the inside of every road, and they have texture on the right side, so you can't, and I'm used to going edge to edge, but I'm not used to feeling texture on both sides. And in this car, it's this tiny little flicker of the wheel, and you're touching something that is bumping up against, by the way, that's the end of the lane. You're filling the lane like crazy. I think, honestly, some dually pickups would struggle to be this wide. It feels great. It feels really planted. It does not get smaller, though. I don't think it feels like it gets smaller. I think it stays large, even though it handles very, very well.
I mean, I could see this in a track situation, even though, you know, you want the two flavors above this if you're really going to track something. But what a balance. I'm actually feeling your turn-in. I feel it more accentuated here as a passenger.
Interesting.
I guess because maybe I'm not quite ready for it. You're already thinking about it. And
True.
You know, I just feel the turn-in.
Well,
but
and
it does feel direct.
Yes, and also keep in mind, you're also almost sitting on the back axle, and those are turning as well.
That's true.
So and you're way off the center line of this car. You know, a lot of cars you sit in, and where your body is pretty close to the center line of where the vehicle spins. It's spinning from up here on the dash.
Yeah, right.
So we're back from the axis, and you feel this pivot
you're
around the center
around.
line. Yes, and it's very accentuated because of how far back you are.
Okay, so, you know, where are you at as far as, do you see yourself ever having this part of your collection, if you could?
I'd like to see myself with $175,000 and a problem to buy a car. But I come back to what I said before. Honestly, this is more me than the 911. I have driven this on track. Now, it was an early version, and when I was on track with it, I was aware of the fact that it's not as precise as the 911. It isn't.
Yeah.
But it feels like you took a 911 and you crossbred it with a classic muscle car, and you got this.
Yeah.
So it has that German precision. It has a lot of agility. It's not quite the delicacy of the 911, but it's added attitude that the 911 has none of.
Yeah,
and so that attitude, that grumbly AMG engine, the muscle car feel is a fun little personality laid on top of genuine precision. But and again, I'm a small car guy, you have to get past the fact that this is just big.
Well, I mean, look at this gigantic hood. It's the Corvette feel, it's the Viper feel.
Yes.
But far more comfortable than any of those cars.
True.
Cars like this that are a 9 or a 10 at every category, you know, power,
it's way up there.
handling,
it's way up
looks,
there.
And design. And so it's this emotional object at every level, and that's what attracts me to buying it.
I can see it.
This is genuinely fast, despite its weight.
It's just over 3 seconds 0 to 60. Just over 3, like 3.1, 0 to 60. And when you look at this car and you think about where we are in cars right now, I don't look at this car and think it should be that fast, and yet it is.
Now, I'm not saying this is, you know, perfect 10s in every category. No. That's not what I'm saying. It's just it meets those emotional meters that I think about when I'm shopping and I'm looking and I, you know, sort of wish I owned a car, which is strange because these cars, they get looks at car shows. There's other cars that get way more looks. But what about the emotional? There's so much more of a compromise with Lamborghinis, we'll say. There's so much more, all right, well, not comfortable for, you know, name a category, or not suited for this or that.
Well, you wouldn't want to drive cross-country on the current Lamborghini product, but you can get in this and you clearly want to drive cross-country.
Yeah.
In fact, along those lines, the other night, we were driving this at night in downtown Atlanta. This is a hunting creature at night on the freeway. It just looks like an animal that is out to take people out.
You should see the taillights, and they're just a bit wider than normal cars. And you
yes.
think, what is that thing?
So I'm hunting my way through traffic, but I'm in the left lane, and all of a sudden, 2 cars in front of me that were a decent distance apart both decided to get out of the left lane at the same time. So it wasn't because of me. They just both happened to, it was like the skies opened. I was like, oh, this happened. And as soon as that happened, I had this instinct in the back of my head from being in Germany where I was like, I'm putting my foot to the floor. And then I had to stop myself because I realized that's Autobahn thinking. I had that like unconscious awareness that that's what this is for. And I couldn't do it.
Oh, yeah.
There we go.
And we know why carbon ceramics were invented.
The brakes on this are great.
Yeah, they're
really good. It is that back half of the car rotation that does not feel normal, but it's just a byproduct of the nature and the setup of this car.
Yeah, I feel it. It's interesting to feel it without, being connected to the steering wheel.
Sure, and I think
I'm disconnected from the driving, and I can feel it over here.
Yeah, it's accentuated.
It comes around.
Yeah, that's the rear steering.
It's very interesting to me. Oh yeah, how hard does that grip?
Better than yesterday in the rain.
Yeah, no kidding. Oh yeah.
Oh, there we go.
That's cleansing right there. It's therapeutic.
It feels big. This is a big car.
It is.
It sticks like crazy, but it is a big car.
Yeah, GT cars that turn.
I'd love to hammer all the way across Germany in one of these. Can we see if we can get that set up? Can we get one with Autobahn access? Because this needs it.
Oh, yeah. Listen to that.
Can't quite get the daily triple before the... Anyway.
Wow.
Thank you, Georgia, for building passing lanes on your great roads. That's revelatory, honestly.
Yeah.
And thank you, Mercedes, for building this thing.
Absolutely.
Oof.
May it ever continue to be in production. It won't, but may it ever continue in some iteration.
Everybody in their same market segment as Porsche tries to build a Porsche 911 alternative, and I think truly staying to the term alternative, Mercedes has done it. It's not the same as the 911, but it's something you should buy as an alternative if you don't want the 911, but you still want something awesome.
But it's very much theirs.
Yes.
It's their take on the problem.
Absolutely. Yes.
Shall we call it that?
That segment is accomplished really well here and different, which is a success.